Hi, Ms. Chancer. This is my individual oral presentation. For my global issue, I have chosen to go with social connectedness and inclusion. For social connectedness and inclusion, this means to have strong ties with family, friends, and the community. And having these connections provides us with happiness, security, support, and a sense of purpose. Being connected to others is very important because it can help benefit our mental health and our physical well-being. Whereas it can also serve, social connectedness can also serve as a protective factor against anxiety and depression, which is very common nowadays due to being separated. And I feel as if more people need to realize that it's not healthy for them to keep everything inside, and they should talk to someone that they feel comfortable talking to with and express their feelings rather than holding it inside and keeping it bottled up, because that just makes everything worse and you can drown in your thoughts, which leads to a very bad depressive state of mind, as studies have shown, without feeling social connectedness and inclusion. In The Things They Carried by Tim O'Brien, I believe that social connectedness and inclusion relates to The Things They Carried because it contains post-traumatic stress disorder, which is a reoccurring issue throughout the book, where Tim O'Brien tells war stories of several different men from the same Alpha company in Vietnam. The harsh reality of the effects of the Vietnam War is described through the feelings and the long-lasting impact it had on the soldiers. The emotional and physiological problems faced by war veterans is addressed through the whole novel. War zones can be incredibly violent and terrifying, gruesome places where, especially during the Vietnam War, when soldiers had a very long deployment on horrid conditions. One major way that soldiers dealt with the difficult environment was to remember that there was a world beyond it. In the specific chapter of Speaking of Courage, I feel really relates to social connectedness because I noticed in this chapter that the isolation and loneliness of the main character of this chapter, Norman Boker, had just gotten home from the war. And the whole chapter is a flashback of the death of his friend Kiowa, who he had witnessed being killed. He repeatedly mentions how he'd like to tell someone the story about it, but he has no one to tell that would understand. So he goes on with keeping everything inside and self-isolating himself. Boker can't seem to keep a job or finish school since being back home. He feels distant and isolated from the rest of the people in his town and isn't sure how to be normal in society anymore. By the end of the chapter of notes, we were told that Norman had committed suicide due to the issues that he had faced, unfortunately, when returning home. And I feel as if social connectedness and anxiety could have changed Norman's result at the end of that chapter, because if he had just talked to someone, he could have really helped himself and others who had been hurt from the loss of him. And I believe that social connectedness is very important because you need to talk to someone about how you are feeling and express when you are feeling super down and just need to talk. Because if you keep something like that inside, it's gonna get worse and lead to a depressive state of mind, which is very harsh, because studies have shown that doing so can lead to depression. In the life insurance commercial that I have chosen that relates to social connectedness and inclusion as well is called My Father is a Liar. My Dad is a Liar by MetLife, which is a life insurance commercial. And this is a short story of a father and his daughter's daily life, where the whole story refers to the uncertainty of life and every kind of imbalances that may appear. However, despite any difficulty, any obstacle, a parent is always there to make whatever it takes for his child. He must be strong, powerful, and a superhero, as the young lady sees his father. In this commercial, the father was working really hard to provide for her and hid his struggles, which he was really struggling with, and you can tell he was distressed by his facial expressions in the commercial, where he was working, and when he was alone and working, he was very distressed, and you can tell that he was just worried about his daughter. And once he was with her, he looked happy, and that's all he needed, just her company to feel at home and peace. And I feel as if this reflects social connectedness and inclusion, because even though you may feel alone, just like he did because he only had his daughter and was stressed, he had his daughter to come home to and make him feel like he belonged and can talk to and make happy, which is all he cared about, which shows social connectedness and inclusion, because he felt like he belonged and had a purpose, which was to be the hero for his daughter. In the link connection to both the things they carried and the life insurance commercial, I believe, is that the characters, like the father and Norman, both seem to be struggling mentally with stress. This relates to social connectedness and inclusion in the way where the father was struggling but sees his daughter happy and healthy. He didn't care about anything else. Whereas in the things they carried, the chapter speaking of courage, Norman didn't have anyone to talk to, leaving him feeling like no one would understand, and everyone around him had their lives started, leaving him feeling like he didn't belong and self-isolated himself, which studies have shown that PTSD can lead to depression or depression-like symptoms. This causes people suffering from the disorder to be a greater risk of suicide. And I think that social connections can lower anxiety and depression and help us regulate our emotions, leading to higher self-esteem and empathy, and actually improve our immune systems by neglecting our need to connect. By neglecting our need to connect, we put our health at risk by keeping everything inside and not talking about anything. I believe the global issue, social connectedness and inclusion, is portrayed in both bodies of work because they both show signs of depress that leaves them in situations where they need someone to talk to about what is going on with them and give them help to regulate their emotions. Thank you, Ms. Chancellor.